Ales Koutny, good morning. It's a pleasure to have you with us on the set of Capsule. Ales, you're the Global Head of International Rates at Vanguard. As a starter, could you give us a quick overview of the current macroeconomic backdrop?
The economic backdrop is extremely volatile right now. Going back to the post-COVID time, we have extreme strong growth across the board. More recently, that has become more two-way. We have seen times where there's soft patch of data or when the data is trends, and this correction keeps going both directions. If you look at the US, we have seen not only those COVID developments, but also energy policies changing quite a bit. So the US recently has become one of the bigger exporters of LNG and also oil. This has meant that high prices in energy have actually been a positive for the US. Meanwhile, in Europe, it's much more complicated because high energy prices mean that a lot of the industrial base just simply does not work at those levels. Therefore, going forward, the economic discrepancy between the two economies should continue.
Given actually the divergence between the US and Europe, in US the rates are 4.75 to 5, in Europe they are 3.5, do you think they're actually too high?
Yes, and we think they should continue to move lower. The question is just how they're going to get there versus what's priced by the market. So in the US, we have seen the Federal Reserve starting the cutting cycle very strongly, directly with 50 basis points, and that has meant that a lot of positive economic momentum has followed. More recently, we have seen economic data turning a corner and start to look much brighter. If this continues, the Federal Reserve could only do a couple more or a few more cuts before taking a long breather, before reassessing the data and deciding to continue or not the cutting cycle. Meanwhile, in Europe, the situation is much more different. As we said about the energy changes across the board, this has meant that a lot of the larger countries, like Germany especially, are suffering on the industrial side. So as the largest economy in Europe struggles, we're going to continue to see a central bank in Europe that's going to continue to reduce rates, perhaps at a shallower pace, but still going lower doesn't matter what. We think that it could be even below the neutral rate, perhaps 1.5%, 1%. And this is the only way that the central bank can stimulate growth up in Europe to be able to match somewhat the better economic momentum we see in the US.
In the light of this new environment, where should investors focus their attention now when looking at fixed income?
The good news is that there is income back in fixed income. So going forward, you have this part of the portfolio that actually allows you to earn some income while still protecting you for downsides in economic data. As we saw in 2023 with some banking stress, or more recently when a recession got priced by the market, a lot of assets suffered a lot. Meanwhile, fixed income was the only asset class who performed extremely well and was able to balance investors' portfolios across the board. So going forward, we see the allocation to fixed income investors' portfolio continue to grow and establishing a much more balance versus what we have seen in recent past.
Thank you, Ales. Thank you for your insight, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again on the set of Capsule. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here.